She was the tyrant schemer, the villainess who destroyed the empire, and the enemy who stole away his family and lover, she said. Please devise a plan, one that will save the empire, the villainess. The voices of the people started. She shouted angrily. You're the most wicked and cruel wench in all the world, she asked. How could you go so far as to kill Abe? She shouted again. What crime did Abe ever commit? How could you do that to your own nephew? You should suffer the same fate, he said. Calm down, Emma, Emma replied. How can you expect me to calm down? She killed my child. Your Majesty, how are you able to maintain your composure? He asked. Abe is your son, a man said. Tia is my younger sister, Emma. I'm sure there must be a misunderstanding. I will get my revenge. So Abe was murdered. First, he'll frame me as the child's murderer. A string of accusations will follow after. I am actually responsible for quite a number of crimes, and Lawrence is aware of the vast majority of them. Thus, there will be no need for him to concoct any false accusations. This is a scheme that Emperor Lawrence plotted. Tia came forward. To think you'd commit such a crime. I'm in disbelief, Tia, Emma shouted. After that horrible woman's maid stopped by, Abe suddenly began throwing up black blood and ended up dead. A man raised his hand. I shall ask you then, is it true that you poisoned Abe under Marchioness Rosen's orders? Tia said. Yes. Marchioness Rosen first killed Abe. Then continued. And then she planned to kill you next, Your Majesty, the people murmured. Oh goodness, the king asked. Would you like to explain yourself? And then he stood up. Tia said. Your Majesty, you're the sole ruler of this empire. The entire empire is now resting on your shoulders, so you should put a stop to your habit of pushing the blame onto others. And she added. That is my final piece of advice, a man shouted. How insolent, the king commanded. Drag that traitor out of here and have her locked up. Later, I was tortured and forced to sign several documents. Following that, a trial was held. The emperor and a few nobles participated. The king declared, Even though you are my younger sister, the crimes you have committed are much too grave to be forgiven. For having ruined this empire by running your mouth, your tongue will be cut out. And to further set an example, your hands, which have been stained with innocent blood, will also be cut off. However, I shall spare your life. The king's servants held both my hands and dragged me to the mercenary house. There, they tied me with chains. She asked. Tia, things will work out in your favor as long as your brother succeeds, a girl answered. Yes, mother. The sounds of birds chirping began. Artesia's mother, Milera, was Marquis Rosen's wife, and Emperor Gregor's mistress. According to imperial law, those who were married were forbidden to interact with those who were unmarried. Therefore, powerful nobles would marry someone that suited their fancy and trap them by their side. In exchange for his wife, Mikhail Rosen received a sapphire mine from the emperor. Milera gave birth to the emperor's son, and that was Lawrence. However, Artesia wasn't the emperor's daughter, a man muttered. The boy is the emperor's son, but his younger sister is remarkably similar to Mikhail. What a disaster, another man said. His Majesty must have allowed this child to live, people whispered. You should never have been born. That is why, time and time again, Artesia always heard the same words from her mother. The girl was told, Be good to your brother. It's thanks to him that you're alive. If it weren't for him, do you think we could have controlled the house of a marquis? You have to live for the sake of your brother. For us to survive, your brother has to become the emperor. Do you truly believe that he would treat his one and only younger sister poorly once he becomes the emperor? The success of your brother will bring happiness to our family, she asked. Do you understand? The girl replied. Yes. I don't have a single memory of being loved by my mother. She smiled. Happiness didn't exist in my world. The only times I was praised were when I did something for Lawrence. She asked her daughter. Artesia, you did well. Those occasions spanned from trivial things, such as Lawrence complimenting the tea that I brewed, the man said. I heard that Marquis Rosen is giving his wealth to Lawrence as a means to support him, another man replied. It seems as though it was a huge sum of money, to more important matters, like my involvement in passing House Rosen's family fortune to Lawrence. I wasn't stupid. I knew that I would never see the day when my mother's kindness would be aimed at me. However, it wasn't easy for me to suppress the desire to be loved, one that had been building up since I was a child. It was easy to rationalize my behavior. Lawrence, my mother, and I were tied by blood. If Lawrence were to be defeated, we would all die alongside him. There has never been an instance where the family of a loser in the race to the throne was spared. It was all for survival. With that thought in mind, I did anything I had to. I had a talent for crafting wicked deeds and schemes, the king shouted. How could you? I trusted you to be loyal, the accused pleaded. I was framed. I'm innocent. I framed loyal subjects to have them killed, and I made a mess of the empire's political arena. There were many more small and insignificant crimes that were carried out within the palace, a maid whispered. Here comes another corpse, fresh out of the palace, another maid hushed her. Sure, keep your voice down. I was also responsible for throwing the citizens into a state of distress and slaughtering countless people. I manipulated Saintess Ligia, a woman who was a beacon of hope to the citizens of the empire, and led her to death as well. It was all for Lawrence. That much was to be expected in a fight for the throne, the king said. You did well, Tia. Despite knowing that I was merely a scapegoat, I stirred up a great deal of trouble. As a result, Lawrence was finally able to take the emperor's seat. People began to slip away. I was the top contributor in making Lawrence into the emperor. However, I quietly backed away without expecting anything in return. It was because I was fearful. That was also the very reason why I dissolved the information syndicate that took a lot of my time and money to establish. If I stayed in the shadows, I thought that he would spare my life. After all, we were siblings, but I knew too much. I had committed too many crimes. That is why Lawrence cut my tongue out, to silence me. And he chopped off my hands so that I wouldn't leave a record. The hound is boiled and eaten once the hunt is over. I was Lawrence's hound. This prison is my pot. Tia chuckled. Pfft. Pfft, ha ha, she thought. You reap what you sow. What else did I expect? A soldier laughed. Ha ha, Tia started laughing loudly. Even without a tongue I could still laugh, she thought. I am fully aware of my own sins. I don't want to be acknowledged as a virtuous person, and I am not seeking forgiveness. But just once. Don't you resent me? Ligia was a saintess. I threatened her into marrying Lawrence. I asked with the expectation that she would resent me, Ligia said. Would you feel better if I resented you? Would that make you feel as though you've atoned for your sins a little? The girl thought about it. Ligia smiled and said, What should I do? I've already forgiven you. The unexpected answer slipped out from between her pale lips. The saintess's influence and symbolic significance were required to make up for the legitimacy that Lawrence lacked, and I completely took advantage of her, Tia thought. She has already forgiven me. When the saintess became crown princess, all of the citizens rejoiced. At Lawrence's coronation, the flowers that were brought as offerings to the empress were piled up around the walls of the royal palace like a mountain. The empire enveloped her body in gold and fur, and it laid silk beneath her feet. A girl who was born from a poor baron's house in the northern frontier had become a woman who could possess all the luxury in the world. However, in comparison to when she stepped out into high society without a single jewel, or when she wore shabby clothes while visiting regions that had been ravaged by plagues, she looked much less regal. I am the one who made her like this. I was the one who dragged her into this hell. I swore to myself that I would, at the very least, protect Ligia. I'm sorry that I wasn't able to protect you from this cold royal palace. The sound of footsteps echoed from behind. She turned and saw him, Lawrence. Lawrence began to walk. Someone began to walk. When those two things combined, they gave birth to a feeling of jealous hatred toward the Empress, who was constantly showered with praise. Isolated in a prison that was decorated with gold, Ligia withered away in misery. The Empress! The Empress has collapsed! Ligia's divine powers were incredibly strong, to the point where she was able to save the life of someone who was dying. However, those powers were completely useless against her own illness. Tia, Ligia said. Tia, I'm fine. The reason I am here is not because of you. It is my responsibility. Regardless of the things you've done to me and the reasons behind them, in the end, I was the one who decided to marry Emperor Lawrence. She asked. Your Majesty, Tia said. I know how hard you work to protect your life. Although it is no excuse for killing others, Ligia looked at Tia and said, I decided to forgive you. So remove me from the list of burdens you have weighing on your heart. And someday, if you ever happen to meet Grand Duke Cedric, please tell him that I lived a life with no regrets, Ligia asked. Yes. I promise that I'll tell him. Tia thought, I'm sorry for not being able to save you. Serves you right, you wicked bitch. Tia thought, Venia? Venia was Ligia's maid. Holding Tia's hair, Venia said, It looks like the once mighty schemer of the Emperor has been reduced to a harmless lump of flesh. It's a pity that I can't kill you right here and now. Tia thought, why is she rescuing me? There was the sound of someone walking. My mind was in a fog, so I couldn't think properly. I knew that I was being taken somewhere, but there was no way for me to know where I was going and for what reasons I was being taken there. I was placed inside of a laundry wagon that was headed somewhere outside of the royal palace. She must have been tired from the shock of the torture she experienced, as well as her journey here. Because her health was in such poor condition, I brewed her some tea. She sipped a little bit of it before falling asleep again. Tia said, Ha! I see you're awake, Marchioness Rosen. Tia thought, Cedric, the Marchioness said. It seems as though being the Emperor's top schemer wasn't enough to spare you. Tia thought, I'm in Cedric's military camp. Why am I here? Why did you? In order to frame Cedric, I blew up the embankment of the Ava River. At the time, Cedric was on his way back after overhauling the western frontier, under Emperor Gregor's orders. However, he did not return straight to the capital. Instead, he sent in troops to block the flood damage. Because he disobeyed an imperial order, the Emperor began to grow suspicious of him. Eventually, he was defeated and exiled by the Emperor. The Marchioness knelt and said, Please help us. We have to put an end to Lawrence's tyranny. I need you, the king said. Marchioness Rosen, you still possess a brilliant mind. Since you're still alive, you can do anything, as long as you have the determination and motivation. Have you not seen it for yourself? Lawrence's tyrannical behavior, Tia said. I remember. Before I arrived at this place, the scenery that I saw while I was on the wagon, the fruitful village of Bakwar, that used to produce the Empire's finest wine, no longer existed. According to Venia, it was 12 years ago that someone from Bakwar plotted to assassinate Lawrence along with Grand Duke Roigar. This was the result. Many other villages also suffered the same horrible fate, necessary massacres. Those were the thoughts that came to me before I lost consciousness in the wagon, the Marchioness said. Please devise a plan. The Grand Duke knelt before me, his enemy, the Marchioness said. Somehow, I have to overthrow Lawrence. But the difference of power between us is much too great. My men and I are only familiar with military strategy, so we have no idea how to reduce that gap. For the sake of that noble cause, please help me, Marchioness Rosen. I need you. The words that I had never even heard from Lawrence, the man to whom I pledged my life's loyalty. Ligia thought, I told myself that I would not have any regrets until my dying day. From the first time my hands became stained with blood, that was my decision. The Marchioness shook his head. I see. It seems that, even for someone like you, it is impossible to come up with a plan that can overcome the imbalance of power. And he thought, and yet I'm being flooded with regret, he said. Soon I will have one of my men assist in escorting you to the countryside. I hope that you will be able to spend your remaining years in comfort. I don't have a plan. But I do have a way. An ancient magic circle. Magic has long since vanished from this world. One of the reasons behind the disappearance of magic was due to the issue of human sacrifice. But another reason was because only a select few people were able to draw magic circles correctly. However, I was proficient in writing the ancient characters that had become obsolete. Ligia thought, if the difference in power is too great, to the point where it cannot be flipped, then all we have to do is return to the time before the scales were tipped. I bit my severed tongue several times and chewed the inside of my mouth in order to draw blood. She thought, there's no second chance. Get it together. Concentrate. The perfect human sacrifice. The perfect human sacrifice, the Marchioness said. In your next life, I hope you are able to fulfill your goals. Tia thought, I definitely did it. Lygia thought, so why have I come back in time, as well? I've returned. Did the magic misinterpret my intentions? Turn back time in exchange for my life. Is what I requested, but I'm still alive. I must be alive for a reason, Grand Duke. You knelt before me, a devil. In return, I swear to become a devil who dirties her hands in your stead. June 2nd, Imperial Year 483. 8 days ago, Artesia turned 18 years old. There are only 2 years left until I turn 20 and succeed the title of Marquis Rosen. Lygia. It was a little hot last night. Were you able to sleep well, Marchioness? Yes. Once it got later in the evening, the temperature dropped a bit. Lygia. Still, if you've lost your appetite, make sure to tell me in advance. I'll ask the chef to make your favorite cold melon soup. I'd like to quickly inspect how the current situation is progressing. Marchioness. Your brother is only halfway finished with his meal, and you're already leaving? Lygia. I don't have much appetite, Marchioness. You should at least have some table manners. Lygia. I would like to visit the temple at the outskirts of town today. May I have permission to do so, brother? Marchioness. Go ahead, Lygia. Thank you, brother. Lygia walked away. Maid Alice. You didn't finish your meal again, did you? Why have you left the dining room so early? You usually, Alice. She was the first maid that I personally selected, and my most loyal servant. Because of that, she was poisoned in my stead. Lygia. Alice. What is it, my lady? Is there something I can do for you? Lygia turned away. Lygia. It's nothing. Her personality makes it hard for her to express her emotions. Lygia. Alice. Yes? Lygia. I'm heading out to the temple. Alice smiled. Alice. Yes, my lady, she whispered in Lygia's ear. Lygia. After you're finished with that, please pack me a picnic basket with some meaty sandwiches. And don't forget to prepare a picnic tea set for me to bring along. I'll ask Sophie to help me get dressed. Alice. Yes, my lady. Birds chirped outside. Maid. How would you like me to style your hair? Lygia. Please just make it neat. Make it pretty, maid. Oh my, maid, smiling. Well, you are at that age, after all. Lygia. At what age, maid? At the age where you want to look pretty, and date a charming man. Lygia. You can stop with the nonsense. I'm just going to the temple. Alice. But aren't you looking forward to it, my lady? Lygia. How ridiculous, maid, sighing. At the end of the day, you are your mother's daughter. But honestly, if we consider the mistress's age, the jewel of high society should, maid. Eek, the sound of footsteps echoed through the corridor. Mother. Don't tell me you're going out to seduce a man with that ugly face of yours. Lygia. I'm going to the temple. What would I gain by seducing the priest, mother? Mother, huffing. Humph, Lygia. Did my brother say that he wasn't leaving the estate today? Mother. He already left. I just hope he doesn't run into any kind of trashy vixen. Lygia. Don't worry, mother. He is a sensible person, mother. That's true. Your brother is far different from those other men. But still, it worries me. Because once a man meets his other half, he'll eventually forget about his mother. Mother softly. You won't do that, will you? Lygia smiled and said. I will always stay by your side, mother, she asked Lygia. As you should. After all, you are my daughter, the maid said. All done, she asked. Don't forget to give a donation while you're out there enjoying a change of scenery. You must always be thoughtful when you're at the temple, Lygia said. Yes, mother, Lygia's mother said. My lady, are you okay? This is nothing new. Yes, but still, help me get changed. You look very pretty. Your hair did get a bit flattened, but it should fluff up soon, Lygia said. Pretty? Why does that word feel so strange and foreign? It's not a word that suits me, Lygia's mother said. Wow, my lady. You look so pretty today, the maid said. Wouldn't it be nice if we could make her up like this every day? Lygia said. That's enough. Flattery will get you nowhere. Have you finished everything I asked you to do? Lygia's mother said. Yes, I packed the sandwiches and loaded them in the carriage, Lygia said. Well done, she thought. My plan to change the future begins now. At the barracks on the outskirts of the capital city of the Kratas Empire, a man asked. This isn't the time to be stubborn. Let's just go with it. The victory celebration. The Emperor's motive is to separate you from the Western army anyway. That's why he's requesting us to hold a victory celebration for the Ebron Knights while forbidding the Western soldiers from participating. That will work out for the Western army as well. Even if they don't receive the honor, they'll still be granted special privileges, the king said. Prael, even while suffering from supply shortages, those soldiers gave their all for over 1 year. They deserve to receive the honor. This is not an issue of money or land. We could return with the greatest victory, but the Western army may still end up disbanding unless we unite them with honor and pride. If the West collapses, the entire empire will be in jeopardy, Prael said. Then, what are you planning to do? The king said. I was thinking about asking the archbishop to become a mediator, Prael said. I'm not so sure about that. Will it be effective? The king said. It wouldn't hurt to try. I've been having disturbing dreams, so I was planning to visit the temple anyway, Prael said. Dreams? The king said. There was a woman. Without saying a word, she wept until her face was soaked with tears. Just the sight of her somehow made something tighten inside my heart. In many ways, that dream left a bitter taste in my mouth. The sound of horse trotting started. Some people began riding on horses, Prael said. What is the matter? A man said. My apologies, sir. One of the wheels on our carriage has become dislodged. Prael got down and said. A wheel? Do you think it can be fixed? Yes, we should be able to take care of it, the man said. Thank you for the help, the king said. It's really no problem. Ligia thought, she is the woman I saw in my dreams, Prael said. It's all fixed. Ligia bowed politely. I apologize for stopping you on your way, Prael said. There's no need to apologize. It's only natural for us to help someone in need, the king said. You look like a lady from a noble family. It's dangerous for someone such as yourself to wander around without an escort, Ligia said. It's daytime, and I was just on my way to the temple. Since we're currently in the middle of the road, I'd like to express my gratitude once we arrive at the temple, Prael said. There's really no need for that, Ligia said. Then I shall see you again later. The king made that extended and said. Watch your step. Ligia saw it. The birds were chirping. The king took the girl in a horse-drawn cart and went on his own. The girl started looking at the horse from the window of the cart. She asked. We've arrived? The king mounted his horse and set out on his way. A man asked. Welcome, Lady Rosen, she said, getting down from the horse. This is a scented wax candle. I wanted to offer this to the shrine, the man said. Please come this way. The priest will be truly delighted to see your devotion. I pray that you will forgive me for using magic to sacrifice this body of mine. Even though a foolish and weak person such as myself has decided to serve him, Grand Duke Ebron is a righteous person, so please watch over him. Even though a foolish and weak person such as myself has decided to serve him, Grand Duke Ebron is a righteous person, so please watch over him. Would you like to go see the bishop? Ligia bowed her head in front of her god and prayed. Ligia said. No, thank you. I shall have some tea and rest before heading back, the man asked. Then I shall have the pavilion prepared for you, Ligia said. Oh, and I have one last request, she asked. Oh, and I have one last request. I'd like to repay them. Could you guide my maid to the place where they are resting? Allow me to introduce myself, Grand Duke Ebron. My name is Artesia, and I am from House Rosen, the king said. Your Marchioness Rosens, Artesia said. Your Marchioness Rosens, the Grand Duke said. If you created a scenario in which your carriage broke down, fully knowing that I am Grand Duke Ebron, in order to force our paths to cross, then you must already be aware that I despise Marchioness Rosen. Do you not? Artesia said. So, you knew all along, the Grand Duke said. How could the wheel of a noble's carriage just fall off like that? You even handed some packed lunches to my knights, as though you had planned it all, Artesia said. There was something I very desperately wanted to tell you, even if I had to go to such lengths. The woman from my dreams. Unlike when I saw her back then, her eyes are cold and clear, the Grand Duke said. I hope that your business with me is worth wasting my time over, Artesia said. Thank you. Why has the daughter of Marchioness Rosen come to me like this? For now, I shall listen to what she has to say while having some tea. Artesia stood up after drinking tea. Artesia said. Your Highness, the Grand Duke was drinking tea. Artesia asked the king. Please propose to me, the Grand Duke said. Cough, the Grand Duke coughed.